On May 16th, 1992, I realized that there was going to be a huge problem in my life and that it was going to be girls. I was at a party for a friend's birthday, and we were all outside playing a game, and the police came and asked us to go inside of the house. I was sitting on the ground, and she reached out her arm to help me up. And as our hands met, a literal bolt of electricity went through my arm, and I right then and there knew that was going to be a problem. It took about a year after this first incident, and I was dating a girl, and not the same girl who the bolt of electricity happened with, because that's how things work when you're 17. Her mother figured out what was going on and kicked her out of her house. That affected me a lot because I felt it was my fault, and I panicked because I felt like I was ruining her life and all this stuff was happening, and her mother called her and said, "Your father's coming to pick you up," and she went and lived with her dad. I immediately called my mom, and I asked my mom if I could go see a psychiatrist. I guess I just needed an outside source to talk to figure stuff out. I hadn't at that point said anything to my mom about it. She was very calm about the whole thing and didn't want to spook me about being like, "What's wrong?" She's not that kind of mom. I left and I went to my girlfriend's house, and I was there until 11 o'clock at night, and then I went home. My mom was waiting up for me, and it was 11:15, and this wasn't usual because my mom goes to bed at 9:15. So her waiting up for me, I knew something was up, and kind of had even forgotten about calling her at work. And she was waiting for me in the living room in the dark. The TV was on mute, and she was like, "So, is everything okay?" "Yeah, everything's fine. What's And she's like, "Because earlier today you called and asked if you could see a psychiatrist, and that's totally fine, and I completely understand if that's, something that you want to look into. And I made you a list of the possible things that could be wrong," which is kind of hilarious because your mom makes you a list. So I brought the list with me. Possible problem number 1, drugs. Possible problem number 2, alcohol. Number 3, pregnancy. Number 4, suicide. Number 5, homosexuality. So she hands me this list, and I stand up and I go to the kitchen, and I cross out homosexuality and I write bisexuality, because at the time I'm 18 and not ready to completely say homosexuality. So I go back into the living room and tell her what's going on, and that my girlfriend's mom has kicked her out of the house because she suspects this is going on. Writing bisexuality was a confusing sort of thing because I don't think she really understood what that meant in 1993. She sort of lived with the idea that eventually I would just grow out of this phase and marry a man or whatever, and that never happened. So she said the word phase for probably about 4 years after that, and finally I was like, "Look, this is not a phase. This is just how it's gonna be." Now she's probably could be a P-flag mom if she wanted to be, and she's come to Pride with me, and anybody that I bring home, she's just totally accepting, and just has been a really big part of supporting me. My parents are still married, and for some reason it was just so much harder for me to tell my dad. He and I have always been really close, doing baseball things and monster trucks and everything. I was his tomboy basically. I sort of always assumed that he had to know, but I never said it out loud. I ended up writing him a letter, and it was National Coming Out Day, and told him how it was and got him an Amazon book about your kid being gay. My mom actually told me that I didn't need to do that, and he didn't really need to know. I always thought that was kind of strange, but I thought that, if I'm going to keep bringing these girls home and they're going to be part of my family, then he needs to know the truth. So I sent him the letter and told my mom that I sent him the letter, and she said, "Oh, he hasn't gotten a letter." And I was like, "Well, I sent it like 3 days ago, so he's probably got the letter." She ended up asking him, "Did you get a letter from your daughter?" And he said, "Yep." And she's like, "And?" And that's between me and my daughter. So it was just sort of like this moment of go dad sort of thing. Like, he was just like fine, and he just accepting of who I am, and is just a really good positive dad. And when like things about gay people are on TV, he like tells me about them. We sort of can bond over that. And I also like to tell the story of Cher made me gay because my dad took me to see Cher for my 13th birthday. So sometimes I work that into my story. He thinks that's a little bit hilarious. So I presently identify as lesbian or gay, and that's sort of where I see my life. And I expect to be a little old lady with a wife, and just take it as it is.